and that's complicated-ish. But if you're gonna talk about satellite to GPS, they literally have to operate for real inertial forces, meaning centrifugal, Coriolis, and Euler forces, as if space moves around a stationary Earth. That's the only way physically that satellites and GPS works, and that's how the math and the equations and the physics that keep them up there work. So, Earth is stationary according to satellites.
Let me ask two quick questions. Well, one would be, I've always wondered this about elevation, right? Like I guess like uh land elevations, is curvature baked into elevations, like from sea level, like land elevation?
Yeah, so they use geodetic datums for that. Geodesic datums for the spherical coordinates of WGS 84, things like that. Those are spherical like geoid datums. So what they do with sea level is they literally make sea, like, how we say like level is level and the globers say level is curved. Funny story, they make sea level curve to fit the geoidal datum. The way they do it is repetitive sea level measurements and data from there, and then at each level that goes up, they just apply it to the geoid datum, the spherical model with corrections, and they use sea level until it's curved. It's the goofiest thing I've ever seen. D3 called my attention to that a couple weeks ago on Twitter. He was like, "Hey, I gotta look into these sea level beams," and we downloaded a bunch of data from I think Noah and all them stuff, and we were looking at it like, what are we looking at here? And it's like non pre corrected data to the spherical datum to make level in fact curved. So that's how they get away with that. But that has to do with geodetic surveying and all their modeling corrections. So they take planar measurements and wrap them around a ball.
Yeah, that's crazy. Every time we get those black and white papers for anything spherical, it's just there's like the whole tables of corrections. It's just like why do you have so many corrections? Like what are you correcting? Like, and when we see the when we see the opposite, you get a hold of some of those papers that say, hey, we use a flat non-rotating Earth for these derivations. You don't see that. It's just like, hey, everything's good to go. So yeah, every time I see corrections, I'm wondering if it's just okay, it's flat, and we're just gonna correct for a sphere.
You got it. We nailed that. That's exactly it every time. You can go into all the
Imagine,
details, but that is the end. Yeah.
dude, imagine we had a flatness correction coefficient that we could apply to any measurement, and any measurement that was taken that they were like, look, guys, it is a globe. And we would be like, well, hold on, tell us how high you were first. Before we get, before we get
I gotta make. Hold on, we need to make
before we get-
corrections. Let's make some corrections.
Like if I flatten
Some
out that
flat
spherical,
corrections.
yeah, it makes it flat. So look how flat it was. We applied our flattening correction, and it's level again. Stupid globers don't even know how to do math.
Now that's funny, but that's like I haven't seen anything differently. Have not seen anything differently.
Dude, if you look into geodetic surveying, that's a fun one because you'll start to see it's completely. It's like, okay, well, let's take a measurement. Okay, how high above it? All right. Well, how many degrees? All right. Now it's like, where was the star? What? Yeah, we got to see where the star. We got to see where. Hold on.
where was
Transit?
Venus's moon?
Hold on. You're like, wait, what are we measuring? Like, yeah, we're measuring the Earth. Look at the ground, and it's okay. Well, when's the next eclipse? You're like, wait, what? No, even the astronomical corrections to tables, latitude corrections, transcontinental insertions, like literally every correction is an adherence to a spherical coordinate system, in which is in effect an attempt to force a planar measurement into a curved model. That's all it is.
Dude, if they got to the end of that arc of the parallel book and didn't find the ball, I'd be thoroughly impressed.
Right?
It'd be super hard not to.
Throwing out measurements that don't comport with the presupposed radius of the model that you're working with, astronomical tables for every latitude correction, all sorts of latitude, longitude correction models. You can change out which spheroid model depending on the data halfway through. Like it was the American Arc of the Parallel is a great document. Everyone should check it out. mctoon.net/SE, I think.
SE, yep.
Oh no, this is random, but I don't know. I'm just asking a fucking high question, but when as far as like the space uh, industry goes, and in regards to satellites, I don't know, like what. I guess I'm answering my own question, but never mind. Fuck it. I was just kind of gonna ask. I don't know, like. Nah, yeah, I'm answering my own question. I was gonna ask when did all that kind of happen, but it was pretty obvious. But uh, that's it.
Well, my second question that I was gonna ask you guys is so we wanted to do
Yeah, my bad.
so we
No
wanted
more
to
high
do
questions.
so good, Chilla. Just let it marinate, bro, and then bring it out. But what I was gonna ask is my phone died. But so we wanted to kind of do like what you guys do, kind of round tables and shit like that. And and I do join sometimes like your round table and shit like that. But that should be too advanced, right? Like you really need to definitely have some knowledge in some of these terms and equations and shit like that. So what would you guys recommend, right? So like let me see, how can I put this? So like throughout your journey, right, of like learning different things, right, in physics, if you were to recommend someone to start, right, like would you literally tell them to start how you did, like your exact path, or is there like an easier way that you would recommend them? Well, not easy, right, but like a specific way, like in chronological order kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a prescribed path through relativity and interferometry that we can recommend for
There
sure.
you go. Yes.
It's a set of experiments you should look into in a certain order. I think Michelson Morley are probably Aries failure, then Michelson Morley, and then Michelson Gale. I think I don't know. I have to ask. I have to work on the list, but there's definitely a prescribed order that I think we can benefit having gone through it or whatever.
I think I can try and put something together, but I think the easiest way to go through it would be to start with um, Einstein's 1905 paper and just take screenshots of sections of it, like just read it and then take screenshots of it and copy paste it into Chat GPT and have it give you summaries of what, like give it further context or whatever, and then you can actually have it explain equations and stuff to you, and it'll break down like what they're doing and what they're trying to do with them. And then once you start identifying that, and you can kind of understand, like you're reading a story about, most of the time they tell you, what the equation is, or like what variable they're using or what they're doing. And once you understand that, following along is way easier. And then a lot of times, like they'll even tell you like what kind of trick they're doing, right? But then it has like a fancy name to it, so then you have to like look up the name and figure out like what that is and how it applies or whatever. And it's a slow process, right? But you could definitely expedite it by utilizing ChatGPT, especially with math equations. It will break down variables, tell you what they are. That's super super helpful in understanding
Is that the best
what
homework?
they're putting for. What's that?
Is that like the best homework you would say to start on that? And is that paper easily Googleable?
Yeah, yeah, super super easily Googleable, and with the Chat GPT assist, like you'll power learn it.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. I'll definitely get started on that for sure.
Yeah,
Well, unless you want to do that as a group.
dude, don't be afraid to use AI tools. I use this thing called Sci
Dude,
Summary for a whole
dude,
bunch of reading and
are we gonna
shit.
have? Can we have relativity night and we'll do like intro to relativity, or
Well,
just
of
intro to
course.
like,
Oh my
or
gosh, we
yeah,
would love that.
dude, yes.
But Alan, like, don't we need visuals, bro? Like, here is cool,
Yes, you guys
but
gotta go to Discord. I
Okay,
thought Lisa Beth was
yeah,
making a
we
Discord, right? You guys have one?
Well, we were
yes, yes.
discussing it and we said we could, right, if we wanted to just utilize it for the visual purposes. And just to touch on doing an intro to relativity, I'm assuming that we'll just break down the differences between special and general, correct?
no, we'll start with just the straight baby introduction to how and
Okay.
why, and then onto the general. I mean, like they try and overcomplicate it and like make it seem all crazy, But like, one's just about moving in a straight line, and the other one's about gravity. Then like they're both doing the same thing, right? They're bending time and dilating it as a function of how fast they're moving or how much gravity there is. That's like the big secret, and that they don't want you to know. And then another big secret is that in in their math that they try to use to explain interferometry, they always insert uh, absolute time, which is like a big no-no for them. They don't believe in that. They're not allowed to do it, but they slip it in every time, and they're like, "Look, boys, we found relativity here. Psych, just don't look super hard or call us out." But like, it's all just like convoluted. It's all like dressed up to be overly uh, overly complicated, right? But it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, whenever I'm
Wait, real
wrong.
quick, off topic. Did you guys get your surprise from Peter?
Never met her.
Who?
Peter, what's his name? From X.
Who?
Oh, I don't know. That dude says things like I really don't know him. Like, uh, you know.
No, we don't
Oh, because he
listen.
had said that he had a surprise for you guys.
Didn't Mortawan say in like 7 months they were gonna have something for us out? Like in July, they said it like 3 months ago or whatever. They were like, "You wait for July. You just wait."
Nah.
All right, I guess not then.
So somebody said they had some surprise they were cooking up on there in the Globe server from like months ago, but then they stopped hanging out. So
Dude,
I guess it all fizzled out.
somebody somebody typed this out loud once. It was, "Come to my server and talk about the celestial theodolite. You'll get wrecked." It's like you what? You can't. You can only argue it on a different locate. Like, what does that even mean?
You obviously haven't come and given a presentation on my server, so that's not every server. Therefore, you're wrong.
And the guy who typed it was in chat. Like, he could have like did what he was gonna do in his server on that one, but he was like, "You gotta leave and come to a different spot and do it, and then I'll be, and then I'll best you, sir." Like, all right.
So you guys are gonna make a Discord and have a relativity night? Is that what we just decided? Make sure that pass that in stone or whatever.
I'm definitely with that. Are we like starting up a new server? Like, what are we doing?
Yep, one of you guys needs to make a server. That's what I'm trying to get to happen.
Right, I
Nice.
guess we would need that we would need a server over there. That way we just have it for relativity night and any other topics.
Do you guys know how to build Discord servers from scratch? That seems like a silly question as I got it halfway out.
Yeah, Shane. You know what is gonna have to happen?
Yeah, we're
Like,
gonna have to build it and then give it to him. That's what I was thinking.
build it. Like, we can just. I think we can just give him the whole template.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure we can export the template.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, let me know because I mean I've never built one, but I mean I'm very computer savvy, so I could just like Google it and YouTube it and figure it out. But if you guys have a template, make it easier. Sure,
Yeah.
I'll take on the task, I guess.
You could definitely figure it out, but it's way more complicated than it seems because it has its own hierarchical system for user roles, permissions, etc. Right? So you got to learn like whole architecture, and then if you're running it, you're like assigning roles and keeping people doing checks or VC. So whatever the implementation is, it's probably more complicated than that. But I have faith in Lisbeth will figure it out the first time, flying colors, no questions asked.
Just one tap it, perfect security.
Yeah, definitely the one tap. That's the best description. No, it's fine, especially if you get a template. You don't have to do anything, like all that stuff. You don't have to know about it. It'll just work in the background. That deal. And then you get to screen share with people, and you can be like, "Hey, Alan, look at this," and he can be like, "What?" And then his screen will show up on your screen, and you can be like, "This," and then you can explain it. It's very helpful.
How long does it take to like get it up and running?
Minutes.
10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
No, that's not too bad.
Yeah. Shane can speed run it. Like how I just delegated you.
Yep. But I think you have the template control, unless you want to give him
Ah,
unless you want to give
what?
him
I
a
can't hear
template.
you. My power out,
I'm
prank
going through a
caller.
tunnel. I think I have a template for ADL or whatever. That should be fine, actually. Less sophisticated. No
No,
check.
I can do the ether cause template. I'm
no,
pretty sure.
no check division.
I'll figure it out later. But yeah, we could definitely do that.
You guys want a free check?
Is that Biastocles coming in from work? Joining as a listener? What up, Beast?
Hey, Giovanni, I'm looking at what you typed in the chat. Could you give a brief summary of the video you posted? It's my first time seeing that. And how long ago was it? I'm not sure. I'm driving, so I haven't done it myself. That's why I'm asking. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind. What's up, Beasticles?
I like how that makes him sound like balls, where Biastocles makes him sound
Yo,
like
I
a
always.
hairy dog.
Yo, you know what's funny? Yeah, I thought about it when I said it. Like,
Yo, what up,
definitely okay. It's
balls?
Biasticles.
What
Gotcha.
up?
Yeah, gotcha.
What's up, everybody? I did just get off work, indeed. Little flat Earth gang chill shash. Okay. What you guys been talking about?
Talked a little celestial theody. Talked a little algebraic shuffling.
A
Talked
little
a
null
little.
hypothesis, celestial
little
theodolite, little
yeah.
M dropping out, kinematics, dynamics, math, Kepler, Newton, and
The
surveying.
huge. Got it.
Huge.
Yeah. That's what's up. Yeah, isn't it
We
funny
can
how you can
talk about
just switch
Sagnac. We'll
out?
have the wild turkey or whatever.
Oh, I
And
know,
bowling.
dude. What was that one paper you guys were reading about? Like, oh yeah, the Sagnac proves relativity because they have to use the lab frame or something like
Oh
that.
man, dude, that's literally all of them. Actually, you just every one of them. Any
It's
paper
insane.
that's ever been created that says relativity and Sagnac in the same sentence does the same thing.
Look, no
That's
point special,
insane.
but for this demonstration of how no point special, I'm going to designate this special point in the middle of this Cartesian coordinate system, and then I'm going to cylindrically transform it around it, and boom, Sagnac.
And I'll make the midpoint match the lab frame too, just for good measure. But don't tell anyone.
No point
It's
is
just a
special.
coincidence or whatever. Dude, oh my god, I couldn't believe that, dude.
Insane. Well, you see, relativity is proven real because of the calculations we got, or the measurements we got in the lab frame. Wait, what? So why do you have to use relativistic derivations then? Why can't you just use the lab frame? There's no answer.
We'll do that. That's the effect of
Yeah.
relativity. It's one of the only things that can be simultaneously the most true theory to ever grace science, and simultaneously the biggest pile of dog shit that's ever been shat. Right? It's like, oh wait, one of those two things is wrong. Either it's right about everything, or it's wrong and retarded. It's like the secret is it just adapts to everything after the fact and pretends that it doesn't.
Is it even falsifiable? Because I mean, they have an answer
No,
for everything.
no, that's the whole point.
Great question. Is it even falsifiable? Dude,
Nope.
no. So, under the original special framework, right, you're supposed to use a specific type of mathematic transformation for it. And then when they came out with the general theory, they were like, "Hey, you guys, we can make this apply to anything." So if they made it apply to everything, then it applies to nothing and has no meaning. But because they, mathematically satisfy, quote unquote, satisfy their conditions, they're like, "Oh, look, we're doing a great job, Pop," but it has no meaning because they broke like the quote unquote meaningful relationship of it, right? Because they're like, "Oh, look, this is unique," and like you have to treat it this way. And then they were just like, we could expand it to everything if we just, come up with a way where we can insert our own boundary and input conditions. And everyone was like, gave a little silent nod. And they were like, yeah, dude, they'll never figure it out.
It's crazy.
Well, if you ask questions, obviously you don't get it and you're retarded. So get in line, boy.
Boy, yeah, that's nuts.
The overall, it's always to browbeat people into, well, if you ask questions, conform or whatever, What? Yeah, obviously you don't understand it. Stop questioning the professor. What do you think? You're smarter than Einstein?
Yeah. Yeah, the strongest thing you can arm yourself with is the rule book. So you get their math rule book or their physics rule book, and then you look at what they're doing and you just start auditing them. You're like, why are you doing this? You specifically don't believe in this, and this violates your framework.
Well,
And then they just say you're retarded, and where did you go to school and practice your relativity degree?
doesn't Bennett always say that Einstein wrote like a preface about distinctly noticing kinematics versus dynamics and separating the two? And then when he put his theory forth, pretended that none of that happened and never distinguished them again and confused them the whole time as a main principle.
Yeah.
So any
Yeah.
proponents of the theory following then would have a sufficient difficulty in distinguishing kinematic and dynamic principles, you would think, right? And then it has to be, well, then by design, that's what it's meant to do, confuse and befuddle. And that's why Tesla called it what, a cloak to like the relativity is. He's pretty much says it's retarded and there to befuddle and dazzle with large and big numbers and math, right? But it doesn't really mean anything.
Can you break down first order and second order?
Yep. So an easy way to start with it would be thinking of it in terms of chemistry. So say you have some chemical solution and you're going to introduce some other chemical solution, and if the reaction that you get out of that is directly proportional to what you added, then that would be a first order reaction because of the proportionality of the reaction to what you did to influence it. So when we're talking mostly um, in physics, when we're talking that, it would be like velocity, right? Would be like a first order effect because that's like a direct value. And then when we talk about interferometry and fringe readings in first and second order, right? So when you do the classic analysis or the classic derivation
Takes
for
a
like
year.
a fringe pattern prediction using velocity and the speed of light, what you'll find is that there's a proportional ratio there to the velocity over the speed of light, which gives you essentially c plus or minus v with respect to whichever direction you're moving in. And that would be a first order effect because the velocity, right, is directly proportional to the change in the speed of light, right? And the term, and it shows up in the form of plus or minus v, and the v being your velocity, right? So that's a first order effect. Now, second order effect would be something where, let's say you introduce a chemical compound and the effect is much smaller, but there's still an effect. So it wasn't proportional to the first order amount that you put in, but it's proportional to some smaller amount, right? So you still had to do something, but you didn't get the same proportionality ratio, essentially, right? And then so to look at that mathematically in relativity theory and how they apply things, because I'm sure we've all heard link contraction, time dilation. What's everyone's favorite movie? If it's not Matthew McConaughey, Black Hole Monday or whatever that movie was called, Galaxy
Black
Quest.
Hole Monday.
If it's not any of those movies, then you're doing it wrong. Let's see here. Where was I at?
Time dilation.
Time dilation, right? Second order effects. So with these popular buzzwords, like what does that mean exactly, right? Well, link contraction and time dilation are second order effects. They're caused by velocity, right? They're caused by a first order effect. So there will be a first order effect of a velocity, right? And then there will be a second order effect of link contraction and time dilation. And the way that they write it out mathematically is that the change in time and space, link contraction and time dilation, are going to be a function of the square of the velocity over c squared, which just means they're getting, and because the velocities that they're dealing with are mostly much smaller than the speed of light, you're going to have um, uh, a small numerator over a big denominator. And that's going to give you a really, really tiny number. So this second order effect that comes out of a mathematical transformation, right, to describe the change in difference between space and time for someone that's moving at x amount of speed, that amount of change, because it's a function of the square of the velocity over c squared, is going to be really, really small. So it'll never add up to the first order proportional ratio. So does that help at all?
No, that's great. That's great. I definitely need to look more into this, but no, that was definitely a good breakdown.
Awesome.
There's a good video on Alan's channel about the orders of measurement: first order, second order, third order. It's a pretty good one.
Oh, dude, I forgot about that. It's like 3 hours long, though.
Like I
It's a
said, pretty good
girther.
one.
You're right.
A
Are you
girther.
telling me I need to redo everything but make it an hour instead of 3?
What did I tell you was
I,
the time
I didn't
frame?
say anything like that, but that'd be cool.
Yeah, you have to target
All
someone
right.
in like 10 minutes or less, or you can't tell anyone anything.
Here's a good question. Well, maybe I don't know, but so the speed of light. I hear like a lot of contention with the speed of light. Do we actually know the speed of light?
Ooh, great question. The speed of light is some sort of mythological creature that has existed, and we don't really know how it was derived or whatever, right? We have this story from the Royal Society that essentially they had the values for it in the 1800 or 1818. A man named Fresnel proposed a theory that water would drag light and it would cause velocity addition or velocity subtraction depending on if the light was going with the flow of the water or against it. And to do that, you would have to know what the speed of light is as a value, right? And that was in 1818, right? And then so it wasn't until 1865, I think it was, or 66, where Maxwell comes along and he's like, "Look, guys, I mathematically linked the electric permittivity and magnetic permeability values, and the inverse square of that is the speed of light. Isn't that cool?" And then a couple years later, actually no, I think it was in 1852, a guy named Fazal took a light source, and over about 2 miles, he shines his light source back and forth, and he has a toothed cogwheel that's spinning at a fixed rate, and he's measuring the pulse rate of the how many flashes he gets over the course of 20 minutes, and from that he averages out what the speed of light would have to be for the return trip there and back to make it through the cogwheel, at that rate or versus its spinning rate. So he comes up with what the speed of light would have to be. There's actually a really cool YouTube video on that you guys can check out, of somebody did a modern reproduction of it. But anyway, it gives this value that's right around 300 kilometers a second, right? And then Maxwell derived the actual like mathematical value down to the whatever decimal place, right? So we have like it's like uh, 299,700 something thousand, et cetera, right? Meters per second. And then in addition to that, so we have this value for velocity, right? And then at the same time that all this was going on, these lads were measuring the wavelengths of light. So they were splitting light through a diffraction grating. So like, just like a grating, they were just splitting light beams through that. And they were using a telescope to zoom in on it and look at it really fine. And they were measuring the wavelengths for different light sources. So like if they were using yellow light, white light, fire, etc., right? They would break the wavelengths apart and they would start to measure them out physically, right? And then they turned the wavelength separations into a unit of measurement, which is going to be the fringes or fringe patterns, right? So they had so they came up with this relationship with wavelength and the speed of light and all this. So they have these measured values at like a constant, right? Because in physics you need, or in anything really, you need a constant. You need something for it to be relative to, right? We've all heard relative to what, or well, relative to your constant. So they establish these highly uh, accurate measurements using a natural phenomenon, and they have a whole system of measurements and categorization of these things, right? And then they start applying them to interferometry, where they're splitting the light beam and then they're having it complete a circuit using reflective mirrors that are half silvered so that the beam can go through one way and come back on the other and then recombine. And when they complete this circuit, they're like, okay, if we split this beam such that it goes east and west to itself and then recombines on the other side, if the speed of light is the same in all directions, right, then because we know that this beam started in phase, we know that what the wavelengths are going to be, we know what we started with, then it should recombine on the other side and be the same. And what they found is that it was out of phase. And what they further found is that they could measure the physical distance of that fringe gap, so like the black pattern that's created by the overlapping waves where it creates destructive interference and it cancels out, they can measure the physical distance of that, and the square of that is proportional to whatever velocity they're measuring. So in 18, a little after the first experiment with the toothed cogwheel, a guy took light through running water that was moving at like 10 kilometers an hour or something like that. And he measured the velocity shift of that in addition to the refractive index, right? So, independent of the refractive index, he measured this additional velocity that was translated from the water. And so that's what started the whole thing where they were like, okay, well, can we measure Earth through space and all that? So, is there a speed of light? Is it accurate? It's the most accurate measurement known to man, right down to the wavelength, and the way that they've utilized it technologically. As long as your as long as how far you move is bigger than the wavelength that's making the measurement, all motion can be measured through light and these wavelengths at that speed. Now, the real crazy part, though, right? So we've got this value, we've got this constant value for comparison, but when they take their measurements relative to the latitude, there's always a phase difference. There's always it's never quite what they want it to be, right? There's always this plus or minus velocity addition that's happening, and they call that ball rotation, right? But we're saying, sidereal rotation, ether wind.
Mm, it's a lot
They
in there,
say
Tim.
constant. Yeah, they say constant, but they've never measured it as a constant in the way that they're presenting it through Einstein's paradigm.
You know, it leads more credence to our side though, is that uh, with altitude changes, that that fringe changes as well. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like how could the rotation of Earth change at different altitudes? That doesn't make any sense on their paradigm,
And
but in
even
our
better,
paradigm, makes perfect sense.
right? And even better when they learn that, they're like, okay, from now on, oh wait, where does it get more pronounced the higher you go? Okay, well, get this. We're gonna take all our tests from the lowest basement we can find. Oh, you need to be in non okay, we're gonna surround it with like cement. We're gonna bury it. Oh, the arms need to be the same length. Okay, well, we're gonna make them different lengths, and we're gonna measure. We're gonna do everything the wrong way to replicate this, so that we can say, quote, push the results closer to zero, right? So crazy scientific procedures to just obviously cover up the result because the inference and intention is clear, right?
Right. By the way, Liz asks, have we gotten any good rebuttal or biggest pushback on Battle of the Beams? Nope.
Dude, there was a podcast
Diffraction,
called
idiot.
the Drunk Guy podcast, right? And Drunk
Yeah.
Guy podcast was about 2 hours long, two hours 30, 40 minutes, something like that. And at the beginning of Drunk Guy podcast, it was stated by a guy refuting Battle of the Beams that he was going to add additional explanation to diffraction and refraction and not just say buzzwords, and he was going to be the hero that the globe needed and all these. He made a lot of promises, right? Watched the entire video. Promises were not fulfilled. He buzzworded and did nothing. There were some interesting technical points or whatever that was, nice. He had some cool visuals. Aside from the constant reminder that we're retarded, his overall Prezi was pretty interesting and had some nice facts that I didn't have in mind. So if you're interested in the Battle of the Beams narrative and story, I mean, dude, his Prezi ain't half bad, dude. Like, does he explain it as a globe? Like, not really,
Not at
but
all. Yeah.
does go into some cool details and give some specificity to some things that are awesome and interesting to learn about. So I recommend it.
Yeah, you basically made it a pedantic argument.
Well, not
And he's like,
addressing any
what?
of the geometry or the problems. It was just like, you guys don't get it. Okay,
You guys don't get it.
great,
Let me tell you some
great.
information about this. Okay, cool, bro. Did you rebut anything? No. You guys are just retarded.
Yep, that was
Like
the
that was
answer.
literally it for 2 hours, and me and Galatrax painfully went through that shit.
Thank you guys for that, because that was excellent.
It's
And
crazy, dude.
isn't light just on or off? I mean, who the heck came up with speed?
Well, there's an induction rate, right?
Exactly.
That's the same thing. You can call it a speed. They can treat it mathematically the
Hello?
same. We don't quibble about that.
Yo.
Oh,
Hello?
all right. So we got my man Uncle Ruckus in the building. Uncle Ruckus is a glober, right? But he's reasonable. And so Uncle Ruckus thinks that we're fighting an uphill battle, and the globe has the science. Is that right, Uncle Ruckus?
But you know you're fighting an uphill battle. You're going against everything that has already been critically acclaimed, everything that's already been claimed by science. You're going against the whole space race. You're going against the Soviet Union. You know you guys are going. You're going against nations right now. So yes, you know very well it's uphill.
Well, I guess the question is, how much do you trust government?
And this is the reason why I'm reasonable, because I don't trust the government
So is it
at all.
more than
Right?
Respect.
zero?
Well, hold
This
on,
is the reason
hold
why
on,
I'm
hold
willing
on.
to have the conversation.
Yeah, we've reached massive common ground, lads.
This is the reason why I'm willing to have the. I mean, look when Trump got in office, right? He
Right.
pointed out how much shit that they were doing already, which we already knew.
Wait,
We already had these conversations, but now it's in like the public view how corrupt these officials are, right? Now everybody knows, right? So why would I trust them? I don't trust them. I do believe that there's politics in science. I do believe that there's an aim and a reason why they do certain. I do believe that, but it's just like, come on now, like we're talking about space here, right? Like most of us don't even fucking know our neighborhoods, let alone what the fuck's in outer space. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't know, man. This is one of those ones where it's like
Yeah, Uncle Ruckus, I got a
I
question
don't
for
know.
you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you subscribe to
Yo, is
the
that water?
Yeah,
Yo,
it's water.
water.
Yeah, what's up?
Yo, what a way to just make your comeback, brother. Like if you had to choose any time, this was the best time, bro. Like on,
No,
yeah, but I don't know if this is a good time, water. I don't know if
I know
right
how to
now,
talk
man.
No,
now. I know how to talk,
stop
man.
for a second.
Don't ask me.
Let Ruckus
Let me
talk.
ask Uncle Ruckus a question. Let me ask him a
No,
question.
No,
wait.
I was done already though. You asked a
No,
question.
hold on, wait.
Yeah, he
Water.
let me ask the question.
No, oh, Jesus Christ. All right, you got
Let water get one. Let water get
one,
one question out. Let him get one
one. That's
question.
it.
Okay, and don't baby me. I'm a grown up man. Okay, so do you subscribe to the observer's theory, the observation theory? Basically, when you're observing something, you are influencing it, meaning that me, I believe that nothing is outside the fucking body. Everything is consciousness. And when they discovered Neptune in the
Oh,
1600s,
okay, water.
yo,
All right, we're gonna put him
oh
back. We're
my
gonna put you back in the
god,
Pokeball, brother. I'm sorry. That's not the conversation we're having right now.
Wait, real quick. Were you about to make the
observation, like,
argument that Neptune was made through like an elevation of consciousness and exploring the cosmos through
yeah,
technological
yes,
advancement?
exactly.
Dude,
Oh
do
shit,
you
my
have you ever
man.
seen the have you
Okay,
ever seen
all
the
right,
YouTube
go
have you
ahead,
ever seen
cook,
the
man.
YouTube channel have you ever seen the YouTube channel Vat City? Vat underscore city?
No, I
Should.
just made that observation right now because it makes a lot of sense. When you think about it, did even the Egyptian pyramids exist? I don't think they exist. They're just there to mark
oh
a
no.
historical. Like, we have the mud flood theory too. Like, these things are fake. Like, we have globe and we have the ancient Greek showing the Hermetics showing that there's a veil there. There's nothing, man. There's only breath. I don't believe in this bullshit. Like, I'm going outside, I'm looking at people, and they're looking at me like, what the fuck is this? They're looking at me like I'm an alien, man. It's
Oh,
scary for them, not for me. I don't know. Because I can control people with my mind, so I don't care anymore.
That's really hard to follow,
uh,
bro.
yeah, real quick. Uncle Ruckus, have you ever heard of the empiricism point of view? Like where you take an entire empirical point of view? So, like, let me ask you, can you empirically prove that outer space, the way to describe it, is the way they describe it and is actually real and actually obtainable? Specifically, like
No,
us going to the moon.
I never did.
Never heard of
Hold on
that?
a second.
Oh,
Well, we can all get common ground on zero trust in government, and that
Hello.
rich oligarchs aren't going to do stuff in our
yeah,
best
it's
interest.
Yo, welcome back.
exactly. Welcome back. Yeah. So I want to find common ground with you, brother. Just because you said you don't trust the government, and that's a
I,
great
I, I
foot
don't I
forward.
don't trust the government, right? It's like when it comes down to it, right? I don't claim to be a scientist or a mathematician. So I don't claim to know everything that they're even talking about half the time, right? So I really feel like they do that on purpose. They don't put shit in layman's terms, right? So therefore
Yep.
now I have to actually know what the hell they're talking about to be able to transcribe it. You feel me? And then I got to dumb it down to be able to understand it, right? So therefore
Ooh,
I just don't know that half the time, right? So a lot,
100%.
if a lot of people accept it, right? And if I see evidence, I saw the moon landing, right? We saw that. We all saw that, right? So therefore, it's more so like if we all saw this shit, it's like I wouldn't assume that it's fake, right? My grandpa believes it. He's like 87 years old. He believes it happened, right? So
But
therefore, it's like
what
who am
evidence
I
do
to
you
disagree?
actually? But like, think about the evidence you actually personally have about the moon landing being real. Like, do you really trust a handful of Freemasons that basically told you that they went to
I
the
mean, we
moon?
trust him with everything else, bro.
No, I don't.
Like
you
why do
guys.
we only disagree with them on this one subject?
No, we disagree
It's
with on
no,
a
no, it's
lot.
not this. No, it's not this one
I
subject.
would disagree a lot.
You guys know NASA and Nassau in Hebrew is to deceive, right? Just as putting that out there. It's almost like it's meant to deceive
So now
you.
you're blaming the Jews and NASA?
Nope, just saying what the acronym means when pronounced in Hebrew.
Yeah, it's if you just think about like the actual like let's just take the historical timeline for example, right? We've never been back to the moon since. We never went before. It was this like national event. It was like televised, all across the world. Um, and it's just a propaganda stunt, man. If you
It was
really
just
think about
like
it,
9/11 and just like COVID, if you want to draw parallels.
yeah. I mean, you already understand that we can't trust the government. So it's like, why do you trust NASA, which is part of the government,
Well, it's like, well, what part
I
of,
just don't feel like they have a reason to lie about this shit, bro. Why do
to
they have
lie
a
about
reason to
where you
lie
live?
about
they lie about everything?
the fact that we've been to space or not? They only claim to go to the moon. They didn't claim that they discovered aliens or an ancient life form
Okay.
or nothing
Okay.
wild. All they claimed was we got to the moon, and I can
All
look
right.
outside and see the moon. So I feel like it's possible to get there. Like you feel me,
But you said why the lie, right? Like,
I
why
feel
would
like it's
you?
possible to get there, right? That's what they want you to hold on to forever in perpetuity.
bro?
Because
Bro, we could
with
travel from. I could travel from right now from LA to Beijing, right? And
mhm.
that's thousands of miles. I've driven from California to New York and back. It takes like 3 days, right? So therefore, I know if I could fly from LA to New York in 3 hours, right? I know for a fact it might be possible to get to the fucking moon.
If it's a real object, right?
Yo, that was a terrible analogy, but
I
all
could
right.
I could drive my car, so therefore the moon is possible.
It's like, well, no, no, well, let's analyze the argument though, right? So, if I can drive my car, it's a place that it can, and if I can see it, it's a place that I could travel to, right? It's like more or less the argument, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's start with some of the basics of heliocentrism and globularity, right? You know, every celestial object in the sky is in apparent position, and it's not really where it's at. So the object that you would think you would be driving at isn't even really there to start with, like as a baseline.
Hold up. What nigga say that again?
So all celestial objects, right? And this is true in the globe model and in flat Earth because it's an optics thing, right? But all the objects in the sky, the sun, the moon, the planets, the stars, all those things, it's what's called an apparent position. That's not where they're truly at. So, like, they say the sun's true position because it's 93 million miles away and it's so far and we're, chasing after it and all that, that it's physically in a different spot, but the light's traveling the distance. So it takes about 8 minutes. So the spot that we see it in is in a different, it's in an apparent location, is what they say. So everything you see in the sky is apparent. You don't know how far away it is or anything like that because the sun and the moon are about the same size. So all you have is the angular size to go off of. So if you were to start drawing triangles, well, your triangles would apply to the sun and the moon. You could determine that they're the same distance, right? But you believe in a model where these two objects are the same size but are at different distances, using the same triangles. So maybe
Welcome, Mr. Stone.
so a big part of this, what up, Stone? A big part of this, Ruckus, before I let you continue, or before you continue, that I want you to think about, is like the numbers and the values that you've been given, right? How true do you think they are? And if they weren't as accurate as as you as that we're led to believe, and there needed to be a deception to get people to believe in them, like landing on the moon, for example, which would utilize a lot of the equations and distances, right? Don't you think it would be very important, either like it would be very advantageous either way, to fake the moon landing to further support that, because you have a lot scientifically and cosmologically and philosophically riding on this narrative that your mathematics has described the cosmos.
Yeah, it's basically shaping a narrative for the public.
I
And
mean, sure. I don't fucking know, bro. Fact
you got
is, though, again, the right. Go outside and look at the moon, right? Of all
Right?
things that are around you, the moon looks the most like it looks like you look like you can go to the moon. It's not hot really like that, even though I know it does emanate heat, right? Like the fact is, though, like you can get to the moon, right? Like if we can shoot a rocket in the sky, which we done this shit in elementary school, if we can fly planes in the air, right? I'm pretty sure we can get to the fucking moon, right? So that's the only reason why I believe in a moon landing.
that's your
Okay.
that's your logical leap, but the fact of the matter is, like, you ask why would they lie about that, right? It's because if they control your worldview, right, which is very pertinent to the moon landing being a
Okay, well, let me
success.
ask you a question, all right? Let's believe that they are lying to us, right?
Okay,
And they're bullshitting us about everything, right? What does it gain to believe in a flat Earth?
what does it gain to?
Control.
It's not even about believing in the flat Earth.
No,
It's
no,
more about
okay. So what control have you guys taken back since you've learned that the Earth was flat?
basically all politics, media, any type of authoritative narrative that gets shoved to the public becomes immediately suspect when they start incorporating things like
So,
outer
so you're
space
basically Donald Trump now. Fake news.
Yeah, make Israel great again. I'm down for Donald Trump. That's my whole thing.
Yeah, but Donald Trump doesn't think the Earth is flat. So
I don't know. Have you
I
asked
got a
Q?
question for you guys. When I'm
Exactly.
done.
Bingo. So you don't trust the government, right? But somehow that links to flat Earth.
Well, it's more about, like, what's the truth, right? Like, let's just say you figure out that they've lied to us about our world, right, and where we live, and so you have to figure it out. Like, where do we live actually? What can we actually empirically prove? And the only two things that I've been
And
able
you
to
guys
empirically
cannot
prove is that
prove.
it's
And I'm
flat
gonna
and
tell you
stationary.
before you get stumped every time, right? You guys cannot disprove gravity, right? You guys cannot disprove the fact that we went to the moon, though. You guys can theorize all day, and I've heard the arguments. Trust me, I've sat in
Hey,
the room
Ruckus,
any day,
what exactly do you
right?
mean by disprove gravity?
Okay, well, disprove it then. Show me the math.
No,
Well,
what do you
let's get
mean?
into it. Let
What?
me ask
Hold
my
on. Let's
question
get
then.
down to what he's trying to say. What do
Okay,
wait,
you
yeah, go ahead, son.
mean
Go ahead, son.
disprove
I
gravity?
said it very straightforward.
what
Disprove
he's trying to
gravity.
say, what
Just
Uncle Ruckus
disprove
is
it.
trying to say
Yeah, but
is, you know
what?
how there's been experiments of people proving that space is real. There hasn't
Well,
been many
let me
experiments.
clarify for you, Ruckus.
Okay.
Do you
We
mean
have the Cavendish experiment.
Yeah, but hold on. Let him. You gotta
okay?
let him
So
speak, though.
now you're talking about mass attracts mass. That we want to disprove that allegation, that assertion, that
It's
quote
not an allegation.
scientific
It's a real,
law.
actual experiment that was
Well, I've already
conducted.
done that.
Well, we spent our night talking about the math where we destroyed that earlier. I don't think you were here.
Yeah, but I mean, I've actually got videos out.
You guys didn't fucking destroy that. If you did, you would have won a Nobel Peace Prize.
Hey, Ruckus, you really got to listen as much as you talk. That would help a great deal all around in the name of progress. What I was trying to say was that I actually have videos out to that effect that disprove completely the assertion, the belief that mass attracts mass, and it has nothing to do with Cavendish
Let
or
me
any
see
of
your
that
video, please.
nonsense. Okay, so all you got to do is bug over to bitshoot.com and type man of stone, all one word,
How about you
all
just post it in
lowercase.
the fucking chat?
Well, I'm
Does he
busy
need to
cutting
watch
up
it
a
for you
piece of
too?
Oh my
piece of
God!
bud
See, that's
right
what you
here,
guys
and
do
it's pretty easy
every
for you to
time.
do.
Everything
All
else
you
is
do,
readily available.
Hey,
but
listen,
your guys'
I'll
shit is
post it.
obscure.
I'll post
Now I
it.
got
Oh,
to go searching
It's
for
it's
it.
actually
Don't
yo,
worry,
parts
I'll
It's
one
post
fucking
it.
and
yo,
two.
ridiculous.
uncle, we
And you're
got
the
you, we
ones
got
trying to
you.
convince me.
Uh,
It's crazy.
uncle, yo, we got you. The link is forthcoming.
It's actually part one and two of my couple of thoughts about the moon. And what I do is I take the allegations made by the mainstream, made by NASA about, well, the Earth is this mass and the moon is that mass and it's this far away and the sun is the other mass and it's that far away. And what you find is when you take the infamous equation GM m over r squared and you plug those figures into it, you find quite effectively, quite immediately, that it just doesn't add up.
There you go. I
I
posted
invite
it
you to
for you.
spend, all of 5 or 6 minutes per video and check my math out. By all means, see if you can find any physical fault in anything that I point out, because in part 2, I actually take all of the vectors involved, all of the centripetal force and centrifugal force vectors involved between the sun and the moon and the earth, and we add them up, and then we compare it to what NASA claims that we view in the sky in terms of the movement of the moon and its eccentricity being 11%, and how that's pretty close to circular, yet the vectors involved, the actual forces involved when you add them up, don't suggest that it should be on the path that we observe it on month after month after month with zero deviation. You just go ahead and play with those two videos right there. And I mean, I've got more material for you, but those two should suffice in dealing and dispensing with your assertion that mass attracts mass, because it
Yeah.
simply doesn't.
I hope you watch it, bro. I found it. Found
No,
it
I've
first.
already clicked on it. I'm gonna have to watch when I get off because I can't hear it while I'm on Clubhouse.
Yeah, it's a lot of detail, and use the pause button frequently to catch all of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not groundbreaking, and you didn't disprove anything because it'll be
Well, let's
a
not
lot
poison the
further
well,
up.
Ruckus. Hey, man, don't be
I'm just
coming to
saying though.
conclusions
I'm pretty sure
before
it's
you
not.
even see it. Before you even watch it, don't be dumping
No,
conclusions into your
I'm just
mind.
saying, dude. Like
It's time.
you guys get
Instead, it's
debunked
time to
every
open
time.
your mind
We
and
were
actually
arguing a couple
see what
months
is
ago about
presented.
24-hour sun.
So wait a second, bro. Are you saying
It's
we
always
shouldn't waste
a
our
new
time with
argument,
you?
and you guys are always debunked.
Are
Hey,
you
No,
why are
saying
you
I'm
we?
changing the
watching. I'm
subject?
actually watching the video. He's like, his it's not a bad video. The only bad thing is that gravity is the force of attraction between objects with mass, bro. So depending on of an
Well,
object's
yeah,
mass,
that's what they told you, but what I'm doing right there
bro.
is
So
No,
he's
no.
giving
already
you
off
So,
now. What?
mathematical
hey,
proofs
can I finish talking?
as to
He's
why that
already
ain't
off.
so.
What's this guy name? The Man of Stone. Can I finish talking? I
Why,
understand you're
sure.
saying that's what they told you, bro. I mean, I'm just going. Look, you got your beliefs. I got my beliefs, bro. I'm simply telling you what the majority believes in, not just I respect flat earthers. I've been in here plenty of times, bro. A couple people in here know me, but here's the thing about it, bro. The things that you're saying, you're trying to disapprove things that people have already proven. The best way for you to
They
actually
haven't
prove.
proven anything. They
Okay,
just
okay,
say
okay.
it with
We've
Hey,
the
Mark,
proven
three
Okay, 2
gravity, bro. We
rules.
points.
got
Mark,
the
Mark, Mark.
Cavendish.
My bad, Mark. And then
2
here's my fault.
points.
It's my bad, Mark, because I'm over here telling him he shouldn't say they. I shouldn't say they proving anything. You're right. We should. I'm trying to keep it. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to keep it like this and that. It's what I believe in. You feel me?
Okay, I got 2 points in response.
Go ahead.
But
One is,
but
look, man, look, you're trying to tell me two things that are just absolutely
I haven't even
what.
finished, bro. But like, go ahead. Yeah, like I said, bro. I'm not trying to tell you anything. What I'm trying to tell you, I love your video. I love the passion that you have behind it. I wish you had billions of dollars so you can go up there and test. If you could just, I wish you had $1 billion. You could build your own shit, go right up to the sky, bro, and see if gravity's real, and it'll debunk you. But you don't. So you making the video and the calculations you were making, I seen it. And you're off, bro. Once again, I said the other day, y'all are not including Snell's law into anything y'all are doing, bro. Anything y'all are
Snell's
doing.
law is
But
optical. What the hell are you
isn't
talking
gravity just
about?
a theory, right? It's the theory.
Like
No,
where
not a,
are you
how is
guys going with
gravity?
this
Gravity's a
conversation?
theory.
A theory doesn't mean that it's fucking false. You don't even know what the fucking scientific
Yo,
theory is.
1 second.
Oh,
Something
let's see.
really crazy just happened. We should cycle back to Snell's law and gravity.
Yeah, there's no relation between the two of those. And let's deal with the first things you were saying. You said, "Hey, man, you got your beliefs and I got my beliefs." No, I don't have beliefs. I
If your
work on the.
math is off, you have beliefs.
Hey,
If
Why are you
bro,
you
bro,
have
bro,
interrupting?
you
facts
have
here,
to let
bro.
people speak, bro, one at a time.
Oh my gosh.
Why
Look,
are you interrupting? Control
you
yourself,
don't know what you're
man.
talking about.
Control yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna let him finish, bro, because I'm gonna tell him how Snell law. I mean, I'm in college and shit, bro. I'm a school.
Yeah, you're in college. That's impressive. By all means, when I'm done here, you tell me how Snell's law
You
applies to
listen to a
gravitation and
dropout
the least
I'm
pothead.
just,
ruckus. What the
I'm
hell?
just
Shut
Bro,
up.
seriously? Come on.
well, I'm letting you finish, bro. I'm letting you finish, like respectfully.
Again, back to this first point, this thing about belief. You see, that's where we draw the line. This is where we draw the difference between flat earthers and globies, is that globies rely a great deal on belief, on appeal to authority, on appeal to credential, on appeal to these other people, these
Consensus.
leaders, a
Yeah.
consensus that you're saying, okay, they proved that. No, they fucking didn't. And this is what I'm trying to show you in my videos, those part 1 and 2 right there specifically. Just for starters, when we're talking about mass attracts mass, we're taking allegations made by NASA, made by the mainstream, as to the diameters and the masses and the radii between the sun, the moon, and the earth. We're taking, quote, Newton's equation, which I don't really think is his, about GMM over R squared, and we're plugging those assertions in. We're
Yeah.
filling in the blanks in a situation where globies prefer to use formulae but never complete the values of the variables themselves in any of the assertions they ever make. They seem to want to prove things mathematically by presenting formulae and saying, yeah, quote, the math works. Therefore, we proved such and such. That is absolutely empirical bullshit on a logical
That's not
level.
you're making the argument about math. The argument Uncle Ruckus and Mir making about is about factual things that they've said they've done and we've seen. Y'all
Okay,
saying this.
they're saying it's a
You're
fact
breaking
that
it
the
about
Earth
math.
is this
I want to
diameter. They're saying it's
talk
a
about
fact that the Earth is this mass. They're saying it's a
you were
fact that the
saying
moon is this far away.
planets are not
They're
within
saying
the
it's a
Earth.
fact that the
It's because of
sun's
Snell's
93
law, bro.
million
It's
miles
because it can't
away.
be adapted to account for the
I don't know
effects of
why you're
gravity,
talking, man.
bro. It's
I
a
don't know
strong
why you're talking.
gravitational field. You said Snell's law has nothing to do with it. I waited for you to finish so I just can prove how dumb
Okay,
Snell's
go
law
go
has
ahead
nothing
and
to
tell
do
me
with
how
it.
bro.
Snell's
I
law
just
has
said it,
anything to
bro.
do with
If
gravity. Go
anybody in
ahead.
here just heard me say
Hold
it,
on.
put a one in
This
the
is your
chat
turn.
because
All
This
they're
is
right,
your
not
let's
turn
listening.
let
right
him
now.
let's let him speak himself into
If
oblivion. Go
anybody just
ahead,
heard
bro.
me
What's
say
No,
what I
go
Snell's
said
ahead,
law?
about Snell's
Kanan.
law,
This
put
is
a
your
one in
turn.
the chat.
Tell us how Snell's law applies to gravity. Come on.
Because I know I'm not tripping, bro. I just said Snell's law is like how
Can you
light bends when passing from one medium to another, bro.
Okay, light is massless and
Can
has
be
nothing to
adapted
do
to
with
account for
gravity.
effects of gravity on light, bro. That's it. I was literally pointing out how you said, oh, some things are not positioned the same way from Earth. That's because of bro. That's because of light and gravity, bro.
Dude, the
You
work of
literally no
Cavendish,
no pause pause pause.
forget that.
You
Let's deal
saying
with
that early
Eddington.
just proved that there was that space is real, bro. You're not
nah,
hearing
dude?
How
yourself
does
talk.
gravity know when to let go for the vacuum of
No,
space?
no, I land
Wow.
there. This man don't not hearing himself talk, bro.
You're just thinking yourself talk, man. How does gravity know when to let go for the
This is
vacuum
how
of
it
space?
usually goes, bro. That's how the combo usually goes, man.
What
Did you
is
hear that
Snell's
shit, Uncle
law?
Ruckus? Bro
Hold on.
said you can't from Earth, you
Hey,
can't see
Kanan.
planets from different positions, but he don't believe in space.
Kanan
And
or
I just broke it
Cannon.
down.
How do you say your name, bro?
It-
Cannon?
This
It's
is why
Kanan.
I give them an
Kanan?
ear, and I respect them. I love them. Right, a lot of them are intelligent, but they lose you
Yo,
at certain
when I
points.
come in here, it
I
normally
really
gets
want to.
silent like three people, and they
Oh,
don't.
All
It
glow
don't have.
cards, if they would just do this experiments, they'd fucking be flat earthers. You know what I'm saying?
real quick. I really want to understand what Snell's law has anything to do with gravity.
All
Has
right,
nothing
so
to do with it.
I
it's
know.
base goes in a strong gravitational field. The speed of light is affected, bro. This variation refraction is an index, bro, and can be incorporated into Snell's law to calculate the bending of light and gravitational field. I look when I explain this, I don't have to sit here and say everything that the chosen one said because that's the math that he's missing. He's saying do it. You do. It's a whole law that he forgot to put into his equation. That's what Uncle Ruckus is trying. Like, bro, people are trying to tell you guys,
Yeah.
bro. If you were so smart, the chosen one, go teach that shit in class and see how far you'll get, bro.
Okay,
He's
let's
solid
He
deal with the
intellect,
can't.
common
man.
He
problem
can't.
here.
Well, we
There's a
won't get far because it's
Oh,
dominated by fucking mainstream
Let
bullshit.
let let's don't respond.
let's deal with a very common problem that happens at the post-secondary level to start, and that is to do with the
did
formulae
you
that I mentioned
graduate, bro?
before.
Can you answer
For
that
fuck's
problem?
Yo,
sake,
come
Ruckus,
on, yo,
shut up.
Ruckus, come on, bro.
The problem that I want to address here is in the formulae themselves that globies and the mainstream physicists frequently make a really base error in combination of certain formulae with other formulae when you're talking about one formula which has to do with mass and you're talking about another formula which has to do with energy like light, like RF propagation, and they seem to want to take the variables of each and intermix them into a singular unified formula to represent something cross genre, if you will, cross discipline, cross reality. And what we're doing here is we're mixing formulae that apply to mass and formulae that apply to energy. And that is a really tragic base error in quote science, in quote mainstream science, that is committed all the time. I'm watching it happen right here in front of you guys right now when he talks about how Snell's law, which applies to RF propagation, and how that's supposed to apply somehow in the formulae that apply to mass attracting mass, which is absolutely
That's
ludicrous.
crazy.
Okay.
There you go. You guys, you feel some?
Snell's law is gravity and light, bro. I land there, bro. You just like, hey, you're
Gravity and
smart, bro.
light,
I'm not gonna lie,
pork and
bro.
beans.
You could really, and I'm not being an asshole when I say this, bro. You're smart. You're a smart guy, but you're on the wrong side and you're saying the wrong stuff. It's sad that I know a lot of people in your life say, hey, bro, you're so smart, but
You're totally
you're a nimwit,
roboting,
bro.
buddy. Is
You're a
it just
nimwit.
me?
I mean, you are,
No.
bro. You're smart, but you're a nimwit. I'm not.
Well, that's just your opinion, and your opinion doesn't fucking matter.
I can't understand
Hey,
a thing
I
Kanan
love
is
you, bro.
saying.
It's
Can
all
someone
love. It was
translate?
no hate. That's not opinion, bro. I can tell. I can tell you have no college
Nah, you have
education.
no, you have
You didn't
no,
finish
you
the
have no
equation,
psychological
bro.
basis to
You didn't
fucking
finish the
diagnose
equation.
anybody with
You
anything, dude.
just
Just
said
shut up.
Snell's law has something to do with just light and freaking energy, bro. Are you sick?
Can you hear
You need to go.
Kanan?
No, I'm
So
sorry.
give
I'm
me the
being nasty.
equation for how
He
does
needs to go
gravity
back
know
to
when to
school.
let go for the
He's
He needs
really
to go back
variability?
to
roboting.
school,
Just
I
know
can
bro.
when to
hear
let
you
go.
pretty
Because
well,
he's over
Pete,
here
but he
trying to
won't
make.
shut
He's
up.
saying all these big words and got y'all thinking that got y'all thinking he knows
You're
what
the
he's
one that's
talking about. He
triggered right
don't
now.
know what
Look
he's
at you. You're
fucking talking
frantic,
about.
man.
He don't know what he's talking about. That shit just
I didn't
blew
use a
my
big
top.
word
And
at
neither do you
all.
because you're not an astronaut. You just appeal to the argument from authority, bro. Stop it.
Voiceover, you are ready to cock ride. I don't know, like you. At least the chosen one has experiments, videos, and stuff. Like I said, between him
Man,
and
I'm a
Linnell, bro.
skydiver, bro.
Between
I know
him
what
and
time it is,
Linnell,
man.
when I've
Jump out of
gotten
an
to
airplane, then
bro,
talk to me.
they have actually
Wow,
showed experimental
that's
stuff. These
quite the
guys can
compliment.
actually have
I'm the chosen one?
I think that's
Wow,
what he
that's
said.
neat.
hey, the man of stone, but I'll call you the chosen one, bro. The chosen one, Leno, they actually represented something, bro. You know what I'm saying, bro? Like it's never really an
No,
argument
I
that gets
don't
under
know
my
what you're
skin like
saying.
that. It's not an argument that gets under my skin like that, bro. You feel me? It's one of the
No,
situations
All
where
right,
when I
I
because you're
come in,
don't
taking the
I want
foundation
feel
of your
you,
worldview
Kanan.
and you
when
don't
I
like
No,
it.
come
I
I
in,
know.
don't.
dude, the whatever the man of stone. I understand you're trying to throw slurs. I don't feel you. I don't, dude. I'm a very educated black
Hey,
guy.
man, I'm using your
Don't support all
words.
that, bro.
Well,
You
listen.
You're not
If you're
educated.
gonna
You're indoctrinated, bro. You're
voiceover. You can't wait
indoctrinated.
for me to say educated black guy like I'm trying to hold on to it like a little.
listen, if you're gonna
I'm
rebut
holding
something though, but
off my
at
off
least
my butt.
point out at least what he said was wrong, and then tell him why he's wrong.
But they can't
Not
do
just
that.
by
They'll just sit there.
saying he's wrong.
Exactly, Jose.
They
Yeah.
can't do that. They'll just be like, "Oh, he's wrong. He's a fucking idiot, motherfucker." That's all they
Wait,
say.
who? I thought I already said who why he was
That'd
wrong.
be
What do you
you.
mean, Jose?
Why is
It's
he
already
wrong?
over with. They're on my
He
ass now.
already did point out why he was wrong. He
I said
started
Snell's
with that.
law. I already proved him wrong. He
You
got
didn't prove
Snell's law
anything wrong. You
completely
just
wrong.
appealed from the argument from authority, bro. And we know it's
If he
different.
put Snell's law as energy and light, he got the equation. That video he made needs to throw it away. And y'all are believing bunkers,
So
bro.
you're basing that comment on the speed of light, which is impossible to measure. It's only been measured over short distances, and you're hanging your hat on something that is just made up. They literally made up the speed of light. It's not constant. You said it's not constant, but you know what? 40 years ago when I was in school, it was a freaking constant.
I think we need to do what Alan mentioned and just go back to what you guys already have spoken about. Since I guess Ruckus wasn't in the room, um, and neither was
Yeah,
Kanan,
Kane.
Kanan. My bad.
And you're right, bro.
Um,
Constant shit, bro. My physical science teacher even told me that. Like he still calls it constant. Bro, I don't bro, when it
Physical
comes to
science, bro. That's people that can't get into chemistry or anything like that, dude. or
Bro, I'm
physics. You
taking
can
Bro,
say
a
you
physical
take
class.
a long
science. Like
college,
I'm a
dog.
that's
Calm
crazy.
down.
First of all, bro. First of all, bro. Don't try to dip shit on college classes. You probably not even in college at all, bro.
I have a college
Physics,
degree in
I can
broadcast
tell you right
journalism,
now, he
though.
Yeah.
doesn't have a degree. Show me your degree.
I'm a
Post
business.
it up.
Yeah, this conversation kind of went
Yeah,
sideways.
I
come
can
on,
I
come
can
on, brother.
guarantee you, he
I'm
ain't
not.
What?
A,
never been to
I'm not. A, I'm
college.
not. A, I'm not. Like he said.
Fielded
Like Buddy just said
credential.
earlier. I'm not an astronaut. I'm not going to school for science. I'm taking classes and I'm learning, bro. Like certain
You're
Why
taking
does
classes.
all
classes
of
and
this
getting
appeal to
indoctrinated, dude. That's what you're
credential?
doing.
Some of y'all don't even know what a damn nebula is. Some of
Bro,
y'all can't
post
even
your
tell
degree, you fucking
galaxy.
idiot.
Dude,
What galaxy we
negative
live in? What galaxy
generalization
we
is going
live
to
in?
get you
Flat Earthers,
nowhere.
please tell me what galaxy we live in.
Those are
Yeah,
just
I wouldn't
pictures
be
created by
curious.
NASA, man. We don't know if those are real or not.
I just
Oh
want you.
my
What
gosh.
did NASA say that we live in of the galaxy? Someone say it.
It's called the Milky Way,
The
and it's
candy
also a
bar.
piece of
I knew
fiction,
that. Hey, the
buddy.
chosen one is the one, bro. We knew it. We knew
Bro,
he
you're
was going to
lit.
drop. You know what it is, though, don't you? You didn't. You know what it is.
Dude, it's just
Yeah,
basically
I think
religious
I know a
fan
little bit
fiction.
more than you guy. That's the
Yeah.
problem here.
I don't
It's
think you do, bro. I bet you. I think. I bet you
Do
still
you?
believe in God, even and the flat Earth,
Okay,
bro. Flat Earth and the God, right?
I do
you're
believe
telling
in
me
God.
that
Yeah,
you're
we do.
studying cosmological science?
And you believe in the Big
You
Bang?
got and you got a whole equation
You
wrong, bro.
believe in the Big
That's
Bang?
the
All
Okay,
problem.
this
I got
order
a
came out of
whole
chaos?
equation
That's
wrong.
retarded, man.
Oh man.
Voiceover. Wait, first of all, voiceover. Can you rebuttal something, dog? Can you tell us something about why you're in the flat Earth game?
Yeah, because I'm a skydiver and I've been a flat earther since
Because he
2003.
needs to belong to something.
Hey,
No, I've
nah,
How
been
many
Ruckus,
I've
don't
been a
skydiving
do
flat
you
that.
earther since
skydiving, bro?
2003,
can
2004,
we
man.
not devolve into this kind of conversation? Can we
I'm a
Yeah,
actually get
come
to
skydiver
a
on.
currently, a
I
pertinent?
want to know what
skydiver, and that's
I've
how I did
never
my
been
experiment.
skydiving. I want to know what
Can
kind of
we
skydiving.
get
I
to a
still I need
pertinent
to
I
know.
argument
skydive from
and stick on
18,
it,
19, and
please?
20,000 feet already.
Shit.
Can,
Yeah, it's hard to follow people when they're all talking at once. I'm lost.
yeah, I'd just like to stick to one argument and go from there and have rebuttals back and forth rather than, he said this, oh,
Okay,
you're like
great, bro.
this.
Like, the
Yeah.
fact is, though, right? We don't care what you like and don't like. We like
Hi,
facts, but you
everybody.
guys don't like
No,
facts.
you like theories, is what you like.
Can we
A
go back to the
scientific theory is a
breakdown?
A
fact, you
fat,
fucking
Can
bro.
we
idiot.
No,
go
it's not.
back to the
Fat, bro.
breakdown of
Fat,
Science is
gravity?
never fucking fact. Science is never definitive, man. It's always challenged. Science is always challenged. Science is not. Science
Oh,
Bro,
cannot
do
be.
you believe in God, bro? Do you
I
believe
do,
in
of course,
God?
I do. Of course.
Okay, well, here's the thing wrong with that, bro. In space, they said that when they
nah,
went,
you
That's
lose
your
me there
opinion.
too, though, bro,
It's your
because I
opinion.
also believe in God.
I mean,
Wrong?
but here's the thing about that, bro. Me personally, bro, I believe that I believe that there could be one, but me personally, I believe a huge star blew up. It had carbohydrates,
So all
silver,
of this perfect,
all that
all this
shit in it.
perfect order came out of
Damn,
chaos. Where did that
you
happen
were
at?
Big
doing
Bang
so
Where does that
theory.
well,
happen?
bro.
I
Car-
believe in the Big Bang theory, bro.
That's
carbohydrates.
impossible. Could
You and
you make
George
a chicken fried
Lemaitre.
rice by throwing the ingredients in the
I
air and then
said
letting
that
them
we're
come
all
down and then
made of
plate it up on your
carbohydrates and a
table?
whole lot of
No,
other
you
shit
have to cook them and do
in
all the
space,
things you
bro.
have to do. Somebody has
It
to be in
makes a
charge
lot
of
of
that.
scientists debunk that God is real, that we were made from, you know what I'm saying? We were made
We
from
were,
source.
bro. I'm not a single cell amebia that crawled out of the fucking cesspool of shit and
Alright.
became fucking who I am today. Like, there's no way.
This man just said carbohydrates came out of a star.
Did he say that? Wow,
I'm dead, dude. Alright. Can we
bruh.
go back to gravity,
Sorry,
please?
bro. Sorry, Kanan. You fucking prayed for something one day when you're like 8 and you didn't get
Bro,
your
we were
fucking
having a great
lollipop or something. Now you're
conversation.
mad at God. That's not our fault, man.
Bro, I'm not mad at God. I believe in a God, but I believe that, like, not the
Let's get
same
back
God
to the conversation though.
Jose,
That
say
was
what's
good.
man.
That
God
was
is.
good. Like,
Like,
get back to where we were at. What were we talking about?
Yeah, it kind of sucks that there's two different kind of gravities. Like,
So when they call it a law, like the law of gravitation, all of a sudden they find themselves at a different scale, as in the nano, micro, very, very, very small scale.
yeah,
And all
good
of a
point.
sudden at the quantum scale, mass attracts mass doesn't seem to work. That law doesn't seem to apply anymore. So then you have to create band-aids to apply to the formulae themselves. And that way they get to keep the original premise intact as they apply patchwork at different scales and levels to attempt to legitimize it unilaterally. Does that make sense, RG?
Yeah, that's good. That yes, and I do think the patchwork has to be present to switch the how do you say it I think they knew everything was failing, right? It wasn't in their favor, so they had to go 100 years ago to try to make quantum physics work, right? Um, I can't necessarily put my finger on it because I'm not I've studied it, but I can't say, hey, you're wrong because of this. But it does get to a point where people are switching and jumping ship from the last version of the language of mathematics, right? So thank you for that.
Yeah,
Stone,
sure
can I
thing.
ask you a question?
I
Oh, go
do
ahead.
think QED is a good example of that. So yes, by all means. Who's talking? What's your question?
No, it's Jose. I wanted to ask you a question. Can since we're on gravity, can we start with the downward vector first? So when was this observed first? When how was it established? How did they figure the speed? Let's start there.
Are you referring to the mainstream establishing the typical rate of acceleration across Earth? And
Yes, yes.
well, that's just empirical kinematics. There's not much to figure out there. I think we need to draw a line between the kinematics, like you're pointing out, and attempting to address cause.
So
I
how
think
was the
this is where
nine
we get
point
in
eight meters
trouble.
per second, right? 9.8 meters per second, the downward
Uh-huh.
vector. How was that derived?
How is it derived? You just simply drop an object and measure its accelerational
Mm.
change, and there you go.
Yep, it's more dense than the atmosphere around it, basically,
Yeah,
right? And
that's
yeah,
that's just an empirical measurement,
Right, a
which is
kinematic observation. Yes.
yeah,
Okay,
sure.
so how do we get gravity from that?
Well,
Now
that's
let's get into
yeah,
that.
exactly. That's the crux of the problem is that mainstream has made the grievous error in presuming that mass attracts mass, and that would be the cause for the effect we are measuring kinematically.
I think there's to just add to that an electrical attraction between two Gaussian surfaces, right? Um, and it just happens to be that there's a downward attraction more than an upward, right? I mean, kind of, and that
Well,
equates to what they call gravity, maybe.
in
Um,
this particular case, when you say groundward, you mean towards the ground plate, as in the one that is not charged, the one that is
sure.
essentially the 0 volt value. And yeah, but it's close to what you just laid down there. It's actually how we on the surface of the Earth exist inside the voltage gradient between those two plates you just described. That there are two, quote, Gaussian surfaces, indeed, one of them being the ground with the 0 voltage potential, which is why one is trying to resolve its charge toward the other being the ground. This is
So
why we
Right.
see lightning.
And hold on one second, just to finish out what he's before I forget easy. So yeah, this toroidal system where it goes from the center out, right? Like a potential point, and there's a lot of them, but as you go up and out, right, and you get to that certain point of going down, um, it does. I think personally, it goes faster, and then when it tries to go back up, right to that center point, it's less of a attraction, or it's not as strong like whatever that potential
I'm I'm
energy
not with
is
you.
at that point.
I'm
Oh,
not with you.
okay.
Up, out, and down from or to where? And what's going up or out or down? What are you talking about?
And that's the $1 million question, right? Like the energy flow. Like if you just center point look with your eye at wherever you're looking, that center point, right, would be um the point of attraction, right? Or that has to be rendered electronically, right? I know I'm not making much sense to a lot of people, but
No,
from
no,
that
you're not.
point, pressure, right? So there's more attraction as it goes up, right, toward that Gaussian surface that's not neutral or negative, however they call it on the ground, right? And then it just falls when it gets to a certain point of being, from that toroidal system going up and then down and under itself and back to that potential point that's centered. What I mean by a lot of them, potential points are everywhere, right?
Well, I
But as
think
far
you're
as
overcomplicating the
physical
analysis by
object,
using all the toroidal geometry in your analysis. So let's
okay,
let's throw that out.
cool. I'll listen. I'll listen.
And
well,
Okay,
notice the similarity here in terms of the gradient between the two plates.
okay,
That there is a charge potential here. Let's just call it round it off at 100 volts in the small demo example. Just
per meter, right?
make it's really simple to show, and you can do it with your right hand. Just take your out of the four fingers in your hand, take the middle two towards your thumb, leaving the outers, the index and the pinky, pointing straight ahead. Pretend those are the two plates, right? Now, between them, let's just say it's charged at 100 volts. There's a gradient physically between those two of 100 volts for the entire distance, right? So that's going to be so many volts per millimeter. In physical, because your hand's pretty small, right? And it's linear. That there's a voltage potential gradient there between 0 volts and the total charge on the top plate. Okay. Now, what we want to do is juxtapose everything I've just described physically to the surface of the Earth and everything above, being your pinky and your index finger, representatively of what I was just talking about, right? So now the charge gradient is the same, where like that the 0 charge is the ground we're standing on, and the very 100-volt charge, in fact, it's hundreds of millions of fucking volts, is what is above, right? Okay, so between those two altitudes, there is a linear gradient, and that is precisely what we measure. It is precisely what Feynman put in his textbook in that very famous, widely circulated diagram showing an increase in voltage potential above the ground to the tune of 100 volts per meter. Now,
Yes,
when we
sir.
look at static law, as in static electricity, as in like grab your balloon, rub it on your hair, and stick it on the wall kind of shit, when you say something has a static charge, okay, in terms of the magnitude of the charge and the gradient, so to speak, that is not a linear decay away from the surface, which is inverted from what we experience on Earth, by the way, as a secondary point. But as a primary point, we're talking about how the closer you get to the balloon from free space, right, the higher the static charge gradient you will exert on yourself as you approach the balloon, right? That there's a static attraction or whatever you want to call it, or repulsion, depending on what you're bringing close to the balloon, right? And it gets strongest closest to its surface, that it decays according to R squared, right? Just like the way that they say the normal gravitational formula does, that it represents static law almost. You know what I mean? Can you see that physically? That a static charged object has the highest voltage potential of static charge closest to its surface. That as you move away from it, you feel its charge less. That is actually decaying radially according to R squared. Whereas on the surface of the Earth, we experience the opposite of that quantitatively. It starts at 0 volts potential, and then 100, and then 200, and then 300. Linear increase in voltage potential, not a decrease as you move away from the surface. Not according to R squared, flat out linear. In fact, the gradient gets a little bit higher as we go past 50,000 feet. That it's more than 100 volts per meter after that.
So
The potential
it's
increases.
exponential, right?
No, it's not necessarily exponential, but the point is that it's linear. It's not according to a radial squared value. It's the opposite, mathematically speaking. And globies
can I just
simply
ask
do not have an explanation for that. I'm saying it's part of the
Okay.
mechanism that is behind the causal explanation for gravity. Okay, that we exist within this linear voltage gradient going upward from 0, and that it is linear, which means it does not decay as you go up. Measurably, it's going to be the same all the way up to the top charge state, wherever that is. I personally haven't measured that, so I can't tell you what it is, right? But that, when we talk about gravity, for me, does it for causation. I'm done. That's the Biefeld-Brown effect. Okay, it's well documented. The problem is that the globies don't have a grip on cause. That's all.
Gotcha. And if I'm understanding right, just in my own terms, I guess you could say, like when it comes to the electrical system of the Earth, and what they call gravity, it gets violated all the time until it comes to a physical object. Then the weight comes in, and what they call gravity, it cooperates, so to say. But yeah, there's two different things there, right? That combine to for that cause and effect, right? Kind of thing.
Well, there are two dramatic differences in what we would expect to find on a spinning rock in the middle of space. And the problem is that the two variables, if you will, we're talking about here are so opposite to what we would expect. The problem is the globies can't explain it. And it's because their model is fundamentally broken at the very beginning of the explanation, that mass attracts mass. None of it can be correct after that because the first assertion is incorrect.
Right. And hey, for any globies, the subject we're talking about, go to the equator, right? Look up at your zenith 90 degrees, do a time lapse, and on your right side and left side, it looks like owl eyes, right? But they go, like I was describing, this toroidal system goes up and around and back up. It's like two circles right next to each other. You can film this, it's repeatable. But my point is, right there in the center of both of these circles, right? They go around each other and connect, right? But you're just looking, when you look at this angle in this perspective, it's like a horseshoe, right? It's like a horseshoe. And the open part is what you're looking up into. It's half of the system. And you turn your body around and look up, guess what? There's two circles.
Okay,
So figure that out. Yeah.
I think what you're
Mhm.
driving at there is the crepuscular effect when viewed through a 360-degree lens.
No. Just
You know, you point
just
around fisheye lens of the sky and you can see 180 degrees, you know what I mean? And it'll produce
um
2 points of
I,
rotation.
I got you. But just using your perspective, right? A camera, I guess you could pull that off, but um, it's staying stationary. Record overnight, just one side. Don't turn the camera around, and then the next night, just turn it 180 and do the same thing, and you'll see that even it. But you have to be looking west, right, from east to west, not north south. Um, yeah. But anyway, thank you for letting me
Huh.
speak.
Okay.
I can't hear anybody if y'all are speaking. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think I wore them out.
Right on, brother. Thank you, man. No globies? No
Oh
globies?
no, here comes coffee. Coffee will give you some mental gymnastics bullshit. Here it comes.
Oh, did Ruckus leave
Okay.
already too?
I'm on vacation, my brother. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Because right when I entered tonight, Ruckus was talking about, he totally believes he could go to the moon no problem because he can drive across country and he can drive across whatever to get to here, or he could fly to Asia.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
for me that logic is completely absent. I mean, what he's saying is that he has the ability to move horizontally with an altitude of some 30,000 feet as a maximum for the entire experience in both of those examples, and then uses that to conclude that he's going to go 238,000 miles vertically.
Doubtful.
Damn.
Yeah, lost me there. Anyways, yeah, just a thought.
Yeah.
Hey, the moon. I believe the moon isn't higher than, like, if it is something physical, it isn't higher than, like, I don't know what, 70, 80 miles.
Yeah.
The
You're
point
yeah.
is, we
The
don't
Earth and
know.
the moon and the sun are the
Uh,
same size.
We're pretty sure that it's not 238,000 miles. I think that's
right,
the
Let
right.
crux
alone
of the
93 million
argument
miles away from
there,
the sun, because it
right?
gets smaller when it goes to the setting situation. It gets smaller, so it's weird. Antarctica, there's no 24-hour sun in Antarctica. We debunked that with green screen scientific method. Relax, calm down.
Oh
The
snap!
persons that went
Hey,
down there, they
speaking
didn't
of
even
that,
show the visas. I want to see the visas because you got to get 4 visas to go to Antarctica.
check this out. Oh wow, might take time to do that. Check this out. So you know how they did 360 camera, and the result was a result that we got, right? That we got to see. So I started looking around of people that actually stationed down there, right? And their blogs and their type of, and people can say, oh, it's made up. But so instead of a 360 camera, well, he showed that. He showed the results of the Antarctic sun, right? But he also showed a stationary camera, right? A wide lens view that was a picture every hour for 24 hours. And lo and behold, man, it's a sine wave. Like, I know it's been said before, but damn, dude, it's so revealing. I'll try to put it somewhere. I don't get on Clubhouse a lot, but um, what it was just a up, down, up, down, up, down, like straight across. But when it got to the bottom, at its lowest point, or the top, I can't. I'm gonna try to get the picture on here. But my point is, it looks as if it's reflecting off of something like a ceiling, and it gets almost like a football shape. So we kind of seen that with that video, 360 video, also with the experiments of damn it, ah, Joe Handy. And now this is like a third time I've seen this effect, and I'd love to try to drop a picture in here. And it's his blog. He talks about there's only 3 months of daylight, 9 months of darkness, which would correlate to the south spreading out, right? I know I'm saying a lot, but there, I'll put it out there. Said it out loud now.
I'm just quietly waiting for them to circumnavigate the globe from globe, allegedly the globe from North Pole to South Pole and back again, but they won't.
Yes,
No,
that
sir. If you
will
go
be
look,
the
Mr.
day.
Scientific Method, they did not. They veered off to the left, man. It's not a true pole to pole fucking circumnavigation. Quit. Stop it. Just stop it.
Hey, can we drop pictures here or like in a chat somewhere?
Draw pictures. What are
Okay.
you talking about? This is not win, lose, or draw, bros. It's just conversations.
No, drop
I've actually got some other people
pictures.
calling
Oh, no,
my
you got to draw
name,
pictures as your PTR so we can see it.
Yeah, you can use
so
crayons.
I
it's
do
time for
use
me to
crayons.
head
Thank
out.
you.
But it's been fun, guys. Got some of the guys calling my name, so I gotta bounce.
Take it easy,
Yeah,
man.
we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, man.
Have a good one.
Welcome to the show where you don't know if it's part of the show. Welcome to the show if you don't know.
Yeah, dude, I'm pretty sure I called it right when we should have left. I was like, oh,
Didn't
we're
it teach you
supposed to
to
get
reach
invaded
for
by
the
fuckers?
stars
Here we
while
go.
opening up
Let's
the
get
bars
watching.
and keeping you chained down with mortgage bills and cars, vaccines for your arms, kids sounding like
Dude, we
supercharged,
destroyed Mass
caffeinated
Attracting Mass, and they
hate-filled
were like, you know
cigars
what's
and
cool?
rage
Mass
quit
Attracting
repertoires,
Mass.
no
Like,
answers
okay,
for
yeah,
yards,
cheers.
caught up in emotion
Yes,
that's
retarded.
not even yours, imposter truths like impeccable retards, lined up for your serving of gish galloping wars, no remedy can save the lost, in love with the yarn, I'm tired of walking into refracted shards, poor science displayed by disgusting bards, soaked in sin with your dupe is delight in a new hand of cards, been so long seems like for love I'm just too hard, that's it. Well,